Okay, I've got the 4 drives in now, as indicated by the 4 drive lights on, and it's doing the usual stuff. I'm going to try to now reinstall the DSM now that we've updated the firmware, theoretically, and we'll see what happens this time. According to Mike1234, then this would work perfectly. Because I kind of read into his post a little bit more and thought about the technical stuff about it while it was all getting itself configured, and I think what really is happening is that in addition to installing the DSM software, it also upgrades the firmware within the NAS. Of course, you then have to reinstall the DSM, but the firmware is already updated where it can handle the GUID or GPT partition tables that are required to correctly work with the 3 terabyte drives. And it looks like, compared to last time, it's actually working. You can see here how it's actually going through and formatting the system partition, whereas the time before it just said failed to update hard drive, or failed to install hard drive, or format hard drive, or whatever it said. But and this is blinking. You can see all 4 of these are blinking from time to time. I hope you can see it. I can see it in real life, not really showing up at the phone viewfinder, but I think it'll show up fine on the computer. But they're all blinking like very quickly, like they're all being accessed and formatted. The status light is blinking and the LAN light occasionally blinks. So it looks like this is going to actually work this time. And I have my netbook rebuilt with the hard drive back in it. The cage to get the hard drive out of the netbook was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to take off. My fingers are red and sore from taking it off. I even developed a blister on my one finger just in the few minutes it took me to get the thing off using these quite terrible little metal screwdrivers. Let me show you this crap. It's got little grooves on there that are supposed to be grip, but they're quite insanely terrible. I need to get an actual computer kit that has like rubber ones that are much better. And another thing I thought, while doing this, I've kind of gotten lucky keeping this thing on carpet, and given that I'm now laying down, because it takes so long, I got myself a pillow, and I'm actually just laying on the ground. But you probably would want to do this installation, if possible, on some sort of hard surface like a table, or at the very least laying down a piece of cardboard or plastic or something. Oh, what is it doing? The system is rebooting. Kind of caught that there. Well, normally I would stop for a reboot, but we'll just let the camera run and see what happens this time. It's got a check next to install DSM to hard drive, so I'm assuming it's going to be working this time. Earlier in the day, right before I started working with this NAS, which was of course hours ago, because that includes downloading the huge DSM file and everything, and I started encoding a season of Grey's Anatomy for my fiance for the media server. I mean, I will admit I somewhat like it as well as some Everybody Loves Raymond, and I'm encoding these in H.264. I'll do another video sometime showing the encoding process, because I've got shitloads left to do, so I'll show how I go through. I use Handbrake personally to do the encoding, and the thing has made it through right now it's on episode 13 of the Grey's Anatomy season, so it's made it through 12. It looks like it's almost done with episode 13. So, yeah, about 45 minutes an episode. Quite a long time. But the Mac Mini's sitting there chugging away in the background, just working on stuff and trying to get stuff done. Really gotten my money's worth out of the processor in that thing. You can see Handbrake's little cue up there as it goes through, and don't be fooled by the lots of green present there, because let me tell you, there's quite a bit more that's queued up, because, like I said, I've got some Everybody Loves Raymond. Season 6, I think, is the Raymond season. Working there and using my Apple Magic trackpad for the thing there. I don't think those would be very practical for an actual desk, but they work great for a HTPC, because you can use it on the armchair or wherever you need. And you can do things like multi-touch, pinch to zoom, and all that. Not quite as sensitive as it is in a phone, but it works well enough. This thing is still rebooting. But yeah. Like I said, I will go into the encoding in some other video sometime, but I do use H.264 with pass-through of whatever the primary audio file is on episodes for TV shows, just to save time. Reference level 18, for those of you who are familiar with Handbrake. I'm on version 0.9.5, I think, at the moment. I stopped using the nightlies when 0.9.5 came out. Okay. Looks like now it is doing something called writing configurations, just like it did with the smaller hard drive. You can see all 4 of those lights are pretty much solid green now. They occasionally blink, but not much. And theoretically after this is the point where I create my data partition. That's the long part of the NAS, because it has to set up the RAID array, and my current thoughts are to use RAID 1, but I may change later. I don't really know exactly how I feel, but I'll probably honestly Google it to see if it's possible to change between them without wiping your data. But I'm probably going to end up using RAID 1, possibly the Synology hybrid RAID, or just a simple RAID 6. See what happens with that. Eventually I'll get a second NAS, and then I won't even bother using RAID 1. It'll probably just be like a RAID 5 for writing efficiency, and have it rsync over to the second NAS. But that's, of course, once I'm comfortable with this thing, have it working really well, and, you know, have paid it off. Okay, system is now installed successfully, complete, blah blah blah. Okay, you can now log in via... Okay, hide. So if I refresh this now, it should pop up Media Server NAS Connect. And let's see if this thing works now. Admin. And type the password here. Okay. Set up a volume, create a user. I don't even know what to do. Notifications. If unread notification, I guess that's like on a phone. Where are my notifications? This is why I wanted to make this video, so you guys can kind of see fellow people's confusion. Well, we'll discover that. We'll deal with that in a second. Set up a volume. You need to set up blah blah blah. Storage space is called a volume. Click here to launch storage manager. Create information. Shared folder. Da, 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 da. Okay, create a volume. Choose mode, quick or custom. Quick is a Synology hybrid RAID, or SHR. Optimizes performance and space allocations when 2 or more disks are installed. Data protection and hard disk fault tolerance is available. It is recommended for general users, and custom for advanced users who want to choose their own RAID types. This is where I guess I stop the video and look up the differences and make my final decision on RAID. So, be back in a little bit. Okay, after doing some research, I have decided to go with the Synology hybrid RAID, as it gives me the most customizability and future expandability. There are 2 different options. You can have a 1-disk redundancy for fault tolerance, and a 2-disk redundancy or fault tolerance, i.e. one of them allows for 1-disk failure with all your data intact, the other allows for a 2-disk failure with still all your data intact. Of course, one eats up a lot more storage than the other one. The setup I have, of course, is with the 12 terabytes, and if I use the 1-disk fault tolerance, that would allow me to have approximately 9 terabytes of storage available, with 3 terabytes unusable as redundancy. And if I use the 2-disk redundancy, that would allow me for approximately 6 terabytes of usable space. Clearly a huge hit to the amount of storage space I have. I think I'm going to go with the 1-disk redundancy, at least for now, just because A, I'm going to at least back up all my initial stuff, and maybe once a month or so, you know, make a fresh backup onto the old external drives that I've been using, which total around 6 terabytes, though currently I don't actually have anywhere near that much data, since I'm only using about 3 terabytes of the old ones. And I may get a couple other externals for backup later in the future, but also realistically, if one drive goes out, I'll probably shut the thing down as safely as I can, unplug it from power and everything else, and order another drive to be overnighted from Newegg and replace it right away. So, more than likely, one disk redundancy is fine. Let's see here. I believe that is... Here we go. It's going to go in and examine this. 2.73 terabytes. You can see the model number once again of not letting me select the individual disks. I'm waiting. The model number of the disks, it's an HDS5C3030ALA630. Anyway, you can hear it spinning up the disks. You may also hear the neighbors. They are having a party of some sort. There we go. Yet I am cool in here creating my NAS instead of going to a party. Okay, all 4 disks are selected. Now, next, all the data will be erased. Yes, there's nothing on there. Data fault of 1 disk fault tolerance. That's what I'm going to choose. Though I may eventually change that. From what I read, you kind of can. But anyway, perform disk check. Yes. This will check for bad sectors to be remapped. Takes a longer time, but error is less likely to occur. Connection expired. Please log in again. Oh, that's status. Admin and blah 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 is that password. What is this one unread notification that keeps popping up? That keeps coming up. I, on the other hand, as a new Synology user, have no idea where to check the notifications. Maybe I actually click that. Oh, yeah, there you go. Consistency check of system volume swap. Oh, okay. So, the swap volume, for those of you not familiar with Linux, it's just one of the standard volumes that's created. I'm only somewhat familiar with it. I've created it in several partition manager, but never really entirely understood what it's for. My T-Mobile G1 back in the day had a swap partition on the SD card. Okay, set up a volume. Blah blah blah. Storage manager. Quick. All 4 disks. Yes, it's okay to erase. 1 disk fault tolerance. Yes, remap bad sectors. Capacity will be approximately 8.17 terabytes. So yeah, it uses... I said 9 terabytes earlier. And this would give me about 8.17. Given that you do lose some with formatting, and I forgot about the system volume being on there, makes sense. So it's going to do that. Anyway, apply. From what I understand, this is the long part. Volume 1. For the record, this entire operating system that I'm using is running within the web browser. I use Google Chrome myself. And it's quite nice looking. So this is doing its fault checks. I'm hoping it gives me some sort of estimated time left, but right now you can see that it's at 0.03% done, so I think this is going to take a while. Anyway, that is my initial setup. Once this is all done, I will create more videos with going into making users, transferring all the data, seeing how it works, checking speeds, adding it to the network, mapping it on computers, and all that good stuff. As well as hurrying up on as well as other stuff like transcoding and everything. So, alright, then that would be it for this video then.